Imagine for a moment that you stopped working. How long could you survive with your remaining savings? What I just asked you is a definition of wealth. Here's a man named Robert Kiyosaki, an American investor, entrepreneur, author, motivational speaker, and financial commentator. He has become quite well known in recent years and has an estimated net worth of $80 million. Want to know something interesting? Oh, he didn't grow up in a wealthy environment. In fact, his family was like most working people, but they didn't have the best financial education and often struggled to have any money. So, how did Robert become wealthy today? Let's take a look as he explains in one of his bestsellers called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki was born in Hilo, Hawaii, in April 1947. In 1957, at the age of 9, young Robert attended the same public school where wealthy people sent their children because his town had many doctors, businessmen, and bankers. Robert saw that the rich kids were distancing themselves from him because his family couldn't afford the latest toy collections and bicycles like they could. So, one day, Robert asked his father, who had a PhD and several excellent degrees, "Dad, can you tell me how to get rich?" Unfortunately, his father didn't know the right answer because he himself wasn't wealthy, so he responded, "Well, use your head, son. Stay in school, get good grades, so you can find a secure job." His real father is what we'll call the poor dad. He wasn't poor at the time. In fact, he was earning a good income, but in the end, this man's financial life took a turn. Now, young Robert has a friend named Mike, whose father would be called the rich dad. He started mentoring Robert and Mike on how to actually become rich. At this point, the rich dad wasn't truly rich yet, but he soon became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. So what did the rich dad teach Robert Kiyosaki? The rich dad instilled a strong financial foundation in the minds of these children with many important principles. To begin, the first lesson you need to know is the difference between an asset and a liability, and that you need to buy assets if you want to get rich. That's all you really need to know and understand. You see, the rich acquire assets, while the poor and the middle class acquire only liabilities, sometimes even thinking that they are assets. The primary cause of financial difficulties is simply not knowing the difference between an asset and a liability. Do you already know what an asset and a liability are? And what are the key differences between them? If you know, please answer in the comments. Let's continue. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. For example, let's look at the cash flow of an average individual. This person earns their income from a regular job, and expenses include things like food, clothing, entertainment, and transportation. Unfortunately, this person doesn't have assets, but they certainly have liabilities that constantly take money out of their pocket, such as mortgages, taxes, credit card debt, loans, and believe it or not, their own home. Now let's see how the cash flow pattern really works for the rich. Instead of trying to earn more money in their regular job as their sole source of income, they buy and own assets that bring money into their pockets in the form of passive income. Passive income is something that generates money without requiring you to exchange your time for it, meaning you'll be making money even while you sleep. Now, let's look at some examples of assets. Assets include businesses that don't require your presence, such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, income-generating real estate, royalties, notes, and anything else that has value and produces income. As mentioned earlier, the poor dad was making a good amount of money from his job, but his expenses always seemed to match his income, never allowing him to invest in assets. As a result, his liabilities, like mortgages and credit card debt, grew over time, leading the poor dad into debt even after his death. On the other hand, the rich dad's personal financial statement reflects the result of a lifetime of investing and minimizing liabilities so that he has more income than expenses because his assets are greater than his liabilities. This is practically why the rich are getting richer. Jot this down and pay close attention. Their assets generate more than enough income to cover expenses, with the surplus reinvested in the asset column. The asset column continues to grow, and as a result, income grows along with it. Note that both the poor dad and the rich dad worked very hard throughout their lives, but had opposing attitudes and thoughts. One recommended studying hard to find a good job to work for. The other recommended studying hard to find a good company to buy. One said, the reason he's not rich is because he has children. The other said the reason he should be rich is because he has children. One said, when it comes to money, play it safe and don't take risks. The other said, learn to manage your risks. One said, I can't afford it. The other said, how can I afford it? Although both had tremendous respect for education and learning, they disagreed on what they believed was important to learn. Robert learned from the rich dad that the truth about the general population is that their lives are perpetually controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. These emotions keep them trapped in a pattern of waking up, going to work, and paying bills. Fear keeps them in the trap of working, earning money, and hoping that the fear of not having money will go away. Instead of confronting fear, they react emotionally rather than using their heads. The other emotion, which some call greed, is the second reason people work for money. They desire money for the joy they think it can buy. But the joy that money brings is often short-lived and soon requires more money for more joy, more pleasure, more comfort, and more security. You see, this same fear and desire are what make many people so enthusiastic about going to school to find a well-paying job. But don't be discouraged. Education and employment are important, but they don't deal directly with fear. To address fear, you need to learn the power of money and not be afraid of it. Unfortunately, most schools don't teach this, and if you don't learn it another way, you'll become a slave to money. Ignorance about money can lead to so much greed and fear that it can trap you in the biggest life trap of all, working constantly. The rich dad said to learn to use your emotions to think, not think with your emotions. Examples of emotional thinking are like, I need to get another job. I deserve a raise. I want this job because it's secure. Instead of thinking clearly like, is there something I'm missing here? This is the reality for most people. Their profession is their income. For the rich, their assets are their income. The real secret to wealth lies in the ability to make money work for us, rather than being slaves to it. By applying these lessons, we can break the cycle of fear, greed, and endless work, and instead create a more solid and prosperous financial future. So remember that true wealth is not just measured by what you earn, but by what you've already achieved and the positive impact you have on the lives of the people who are always around you. Robert Kiyosaki's story and the lessons shared by his rich dad provide us with valuable insights into the nature of wealth and the path to attain it. The fundamental explanation between assets and liabilities, the pursuit of passive income, and the challenge of overcoming fear and greed are principles that can transform our approach to money and prosperity. The journey to wealth is not only about hard work, but also about financial education and strategic thinking. While many seek security in conventional jobs, the rich aim to build assets that work for them, providing long-term independence and stability. So, learning to use our emotions to think clearly and not fear money are crucial lessons for all of us. It's not about belittling education and employment, but expanding our horizons and seeking a deeper understanding of money and assets. Apply these lessons to your life, because if I were to ask you what the definition of your wealth is, if you were to stop working today, how long would you survive? I hope this video has helped you think about money in the right way, and if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to not miss the new knowledge that is coming. See you in the next video.